Now recently I decided I wanted to get into flying drones for the first time, and I looked out there on the marketplace and I noticed that there were a lot of options that were quite cheap but a little bit rubbish, and a lot of options that cost more money than I had to spend, even though they'd be great, they just weren't in my price range. And then I happened to find this, the DJI Mini 4K. Now, right now, this drone is currently at £225 here in the UK, but for that price, I just couldn't not give it a go. Now, I want to know, in 2025, should you buy one of these as your first drone, especially considering the price point it's currently at? Now, the Mini 4K is quite an interesting drone because it's actually near enough identical to the Mini 2 SE with the same dimensions and same weights, except it happens to have a 4K camera. Now you get a 31-minute flight time, which I have found is more like 20 to 25. It uses the DJI O2 proprietary wireless connection system, and that gives you up to 10 kilometers range here in the UK/Europe. Now you get a max speed of 39 kilometers per hour with this drone, depending on the actual amount of wind that is out, and it has a level 5 wind resistance, and that's actually pretty decent for an under 249 gram drone, which is the category this falls into, which is nice because it means you're less restricted on when and where and how you can fly. You also have a height limit of 120 meters from takeoff on this device, so yeah, it gives generally, in my experience, enough height to capture what you want without posing a danger to other airspace users. Now let's talk about what you get in the box quickly. You get the drone itself, you get the controller, you get some different connector cables depending on what phone or device that you're using with the actual controller itself is. You get some spare blades and a screwdriver, and you also get this kind of gimbal cover which is normally attached to the drone to protect the gimbal from getting damaged. You do not, however, get any form of charger. Now, one of the things that drew me to this particular drone is because I like to do a lot of video stuff, and it seemed like it actually got a decent spec camera for the price. It's got a 4K camera which can do up to 4K 30. I believe it can do 1080p 60 FPS, and I think 2.7K will also do up to 60, but mainly I'm interested in 4K at 25 FPS. Now the camera can actually do 100 megabit per second on the bitrate side of things, which is nice. 12 megapixel camera, and it has got a 1/2.3 inch sensor, and it can shoot in both JPEG and JPEG plus RAW. Now this thing here is the remote controller. This is one without a screen, and you're not going to expect one with a screen at this price point. You pretty much just slot your phone into the top of this, connect it with one of the cables that comes in the box, and you use your phone as the display, and also the other way to control other features in the DJI Fly app itself. Now this is identical to some of the other DJI remotes that you've seen on different versions of their drones which don't have the screen, except this has, I think, about 2 hours less battery capacity in total, so it is slightly cheaper in that regard, but overall it's a solid unit, and for me I found it's had enough runtime. Now my particular unit was not the Fly More combo, which is something you can get which has a battery charger, more batteries, and a bag, and I think some other spares as well. I didn't get that because I found that the kind of flight time I had would probably be enough for what I was doing in one shot, and it only charges in about an hour's time, so it's not too terrible. I found it hasn't been a massive inconvenience. I am planning at some point to get the batteries and the charger for longer flights and for times where I'm out shooting cars actually. Now depending on your locality, it is worth noting that you may require some form of at least operator ID or license or anything along those lines. Here in the UK, we require an operator ID to fly these things. Now that costs about £11 a year and basically just registers it, so if your drone gets into an accident or causes problems and it is found, then people can trace it back to you. Now usually you would stick on the drone with kind of a label maker or something like that, the operator ID that you're given. You can also put it in the battery compartment as well, on a note. That's where I've got mine at the moment. I would normally have it stuck to the drone, but because I'm doing filming with it and showing off for YouTube, I decided to take my operator ID off the top, but that is where I'd normally put it, along with, say, something like your phone number perhaps, which I also do in case it goes down, so people can contact me and perhaps see if we can arrange to get it back to me if I do lose it. Now there's also a nice little optional extra that you can get with these drones that I did choose to purchase, and that is the DJI Care program, and basically it means if you fly this into something and you break it, you only have to pay a small fee to actually send it back to them and get it repaired. And And also if the drone flies away, falls into water or things like that, gets completely lost, there is a higher fee to get a new body main drone. It's a little bit of peace of mind that if you want to fly it closer to things like trees, power lines, ponds and stuff like that, you can and not worry as much. Right, well let's go to somewhere appropriate and let's do a little flight, shall we? Okay, so I've now got the drone outside and we're ready to take off. Now before you take off, it's really important to look at the map on the DJI Fly app and just see if there's any restricted airspace near where you are. But even then, you still need to have a look online for regular updates as well, or use maybe one of the third-party drone apps just to check there's nothing else restricted in the area that could be temporary, and make sure that you're flying all properly and safely. Now with that said, I put my drone on top of the bag I have used to carry it because it was struggling to take off there because of the grass. Okay, and we are up. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in a video mode and I'm going to record some footage. And I'm going to go forward here. Now the controls are really easy to actually use on this. What I've got here, as you can see, is I've got the phone attached to the controller here. And when I press this, the drone goes up. And this way the drone will move right, and it'll move left, and it'll go forward, backwards, and this is kind of, you know, turning it around side to side here. So yeah, it's actually pretty intuitive to use. Now I'm going to go up nice and high here, and I can use the trim button on the controller as well to look the camera either up or down. So that's down, this is going up here. And I'm going to go to the max flight ceiling that we've got here. Now you'll see that is 120 meters. But while I'm also doing that, I need to make sure that I keep the drone in line of sight. Now I'm going to let it hover for a second. That is very important because the law states, at least here, that you need to keep your drone in line of sight. So you can watch out to see if there's any problems with other aircrafts, any birds, anything flying, any power lines, anything where you could damage your drone or, you know, potentially damage other people's properties or cause an accident of some sort. So that's what the VLOS is, the visual line of sight. Now, right where I am, I can see the drone is up there still, so I can go a bit higher. I can go up a little bit more, and we are currently at about 90 feet, or 90 meters, should I say. I'm going to see if we can hit the ceiling limit. Now, this is the thing. A lot of people were a bit upset about only getting 120 meters here. And where I am now, I can just barely see the drone in the sky. It's starting to blend in a little bit. So I'm about to lose visual line of sight just as I reach max altitude. So I happen to have a clear sky with only a few clouds in, and I can see it nicely. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it back down so it comes better into view. And yeah, we've got it again. I can see the thing again. That's nice. It's come back into view. Now with the drone in view, let's do a little bit of flying. I've got it in normal mode at the moment, and we can move it around. We can move the camera left to right, and we can move it up and down, side to side, all that good stuff. Now one problem I do have is my phone is overheating in the sun. It's nearly 30 degrees today. So the screen has gone a little bit dark. Now I'm going to show you cinematic mode on this. And when you move the drone side to side, you'll notice that it moves that little bit slower there, so you can get those cinematic shots and make everything look nice and crispy, as the kids call it, and it doesn't move as fast. But if you put it into sport mode and press go on this thing, we'll get some speed up, and you can see that it now moves a lot quicker, and I can increase the altitude as well. So that's really good, and that's really fun, and you can see that we're going off over the countryside now, and oh, such a beautiful day. Such a beautiful day. Now what I'm going to do is press the return to home button here, and this is going to get the drone to come back to home. Now this is a nice safety feature if you start to run out of battery or you lose it in the sky and you just can't see it or anything like that. In fact, I've just taken my eye away to look at the camera and I now can't see it. So I'm in a position where I need to get this drone back to somewhere I can see it. So I'm going to press this return to home button, and it's going to bring it back.
Now I'm going to have to blur some of this footage or not include it because it's going to give my location away a little bit now. But you can see that the actual unit starts beeping and it shows that we're returning to home. So I've now got the camera all the way down and you can see that it is directly on top of me. Now, because this has no sensors, you need to be careful as well to make sure that when it's doing the return to home, it's not going to hit anything, or if it does any auto landing, and it's not going to hit anything. But yeah, I can move this kind of thing around. I can now cancel the return to home if I want to, which I have done. Now it's back in the area where I need it to be. Now, because the screen has got so hot and it's really hard to see what's happening out here, it is harder to show you more of the features that this thing has. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and show you some clips that I have already filmed with this thing in different scenarios.
Well, here you can see that I've got a nice little bit of footage going over a river, and then it is moving up to show one of the local towns that I went and filmed this in. Now, it's quite interesting when you go over the river because you have to bear in mind that there are no kind of optical avoidance sensors on this unit apart from the downward ones, and they're only activated during landing as far as I'm aware, so that can make it very easy to crash into the water and drown your drone. And that means you need to keep in mind that these things aren't actually waterproof at all. So you can't fly them in the rain. It's not recommended to fly them in anywhere it's really kind of misty, or through clouds if you're somewhere where they're actually low enough from your takeoff point. So you do have to be careful. And here I am trying one of those artsy shots where you fly at someone and at the last moment you just boop, drone into the sky, and then you go over the next thing that you want in the background, which happens to be a field. Now, it's important to note that you also need landowner permission to take off and set down your drone on private property. Not everywhere will give you that. This place that I'm at, I do have permission and I know the landlord, so they've allowed me to do that. You are still allowed to fly over the areas, but on private property you can't land on them. Now, we also have some footage here of a local river, which is near a pub that I went to the other day, and it's quite nice. It's lovely and scenic and picturesque, and you can see here that I'm playing with some of the drone camera controls. Like in the last clip, it does take a little bit of mastering to get things looking smooth, and it does help if you keep it in the cinema mode. So yeah, with a bit of practice, I'm sure I'll be able to get some of these movements a little bit smoother, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with how I'm coming on with my clip taking, considering I've only had the drone for maybe 2 or 3 days at this point now. Okay, let's move on to quick shots. Now, quick shots are something that this drone does have, and it's basically a set of predefined movements that the drone will make. You just press a button, and as you can see here, it's flying away. And in the next clip, it's going to do something known as a rocket, which is where it'll fly away above me and go upwards, like a rocket would do. The thing I dislike about these is the fact that they're limited to 30 FPS. You can't change the frame rate on them. You can change the resolution, but it makes it a bit more difficult to kind of incorporate these into most editing software without having to play about, slow down the clip or something like that. And the quality just isn't as good. You can probably notice that there is a little bit of a bitrate drop in places here. I mean, it's okay, but I wouldn't use these for actual cinematography stuff, more as just a fun little thing to play with personally. Okay, and here we get to one of the main reasons that I actually purchased this drone. Over on a channel called JM and Friends, I do a lot of car related content, and I wanted to try and get some shots of cars. Now, it is a bit difficult to actually do this manually, and I'm still learning, but some of the clips I've been getting I think will certainly be pretty usable for what I want to do with them. And it'll also allow you to do some fun stuff like this, which is flying the drone through the car's open window. Now, is this worth buying as a beginner drone? Now, personally, I think it is. I know there is the DJI Neo, which is a smaller drone and is controlled solely by your phone, unless you want to buy one of these controllers as an add-on, and it does more quick shots, and it does the follow me things and the tracking stuff, which this one doesn't have. But I'm not necessarily interested in getting drone pictures of me doing silly things and fun things and sporty things. I'm more interested in actually flying my drone and using it to get my own aerial photography and perhaps mastering the controls a bit more myself and getting that satisfaction of doing those shots myself. So if you're like me and you want to do the same kind of thing, then I would say this drone for the price is really worth looking into. Also, if something was to happen to the drone, the amount of money you've actually spent on it isn't as big as if you went and bought one of the Pros or one of the bigger ones or something more expensive, and it's much easier to stomach if you don't have DJI care or you don't have any kind of insurance on these things, that if it goes wrong you haven't lost quite as much money. Though let's be honest, even at full price, which I think is about £270, you know, it's still not cheap, but it's very good value for money. Now, I'd love to know your thoughts on these things. Is this the kind of drone that you'd pick up? Do you recommend it as a first drone? What other options have you seen out there that are also worth looking at for the price point, or perhaps, you know, comparable in performance and the features that they have? But until next time, as always, my name is Will. This has been a fun video talking about drones today, and I'll see you in the next video.